Pisces March 2017, and this is a special on Venus retrograde, how it will affect you personally, Pisces, what it means for you. But before I go into the Venus retrograde, just the month starts with Jupiter opposition Uranus, and Jupiter is the planet that rules you guys, is the traditional ruler of Pisces. So quite a few Pisces, especially towards the end of February, the last week of February and the first week of the first week of March, can have some surprises out of the blue, because the planet that rules you, Jupiter, is opposed by Uranus. It's a pretty rare transit. Last time it happened must have been more than 12 years ago. It's the second time that it happens, by the way. The last since it started this new cycle, basically the last time was around December 2016. But starting the month and ending February and starting March with Uranus opposition Jupiter, is Uranus is sudden events that can change your life in some way, surprising, out of the blue, a bit hard even to predict, but especially events that might be happening in regards to your because Uranus and Jupiter are in your security axis, like finances, resources, what I give and what I receive, what others give me. Some sudden opportunities can come in regards to that at the beginning, the end of February, the beginning of March, basically. Sometimes something out of the blue, like a fluke, might come, because Jupiter is planet of luck, and it's your planet, and it's aspecting Uranus, which is the planet of sudden out of the blue developments. So something to do with finances can come at the beginning of March, the first week, suddenly to you as an opportunity, as an idea. You might become more progressive and open-minded towards February and the beginning of March in regards to new exciting ideas, so in regards to even taking risks. But you're more risk-prone as well. You're more prone to throw the baby out with the water, as they say, because Mars is part of that configuration. So, it's excitable. It's going to generate new things around you. It's going to generate surprises, sudden developments, sudden opportunities that you are not aware of before, or that actually even opportunities that come to you from the past, because Jupiter is moving retrograde. So something that you maybe thought was not materializing, Uranus can suddenly revive it into your life again. But it might be a little bit too impulsive as well. So it's good for you not to rush too crazily with excitement, but definitely there is breaking of the ice, there is breaking of stagnant situation, the end of February, the beginning of March. But the most important thing in March is that Venus is going retrograde in your second house, Pisces. And Venus rules relationships and love as well. But for you in particular, this time might, especially in March, while Venus is in your second house, might affect more financial matters, and matters of material responsibilities and duties, matters of money, of assets, of resources of some sorts. And when Venus starts moving retrograde, which happens rarely, by the way, it's a very rare transit, so it will be felt quite strongly, I would say. And when Venus starts moving retrograde there, especially in the first 25 days of March, until Venus joins the Sun, so it starts its new cycle. But before the 25th of March, so most of March, Venus is in an ending cycle. So you might start becoming more aware of certain financial duties or responsibilities or resources or assets that have outlived their role in your life. Some of you might close bank accounts, others might see an ending of some kind of resources or income that you've been having, that it has to be re-examined or has to be completed in some sort, some kind of financial support, that it has to be changed in some way, that you start re-evaluating. Maybe you've been putting a lot of efforts financially or emotionally in something which is not remunerating you back with the same way, that is not paying back the same way. Also, you start re-examining your self-worth, because second house rules money, but on the deep level it rules your self-worth and self-value, because our resources and abundance financial around us reflects how worthy we feel that the universe gives us those, how highly we appreciate our talents and gifts or ourselves as a human being. And if we appreciate it, we reflect it by the material circumstances in our life. So when Venus starts moving retrograde there, we start re-examining, why am I receiving less money, for example, or why I am putting so much work and efforts in something, but I'm not seeing the same payback. I'm not seeing the results, and you start anything, and this is not something that it just happens out of the blue. It's been out of balance for a little bit, for a while. You There've been some out of balance in regards to how worthy you feel, and in regards to your financial situations. Maybe you've been giving too much and not receiving too back enough, or maybe you've been spending too much energy in the wrong areas, which are not worth your time, basically. And you start becoming more and more aware of that in March, when Venus starts going retrograde in your second house. And second house is how you expend your energy and your resources overall. So you start maybe thinking, I have to rethink my expenses. I have to rethink how I spend. I have to rethink my possessions. And in some cases, on a positive level, there might be a return of something that you've lost, that you haven't been able to find in a while, or maybe some possession that is owned to you, some money that is owed to you. It can come back to you because Venus is moving retrograde. That's a great manifestation. On another level, it might be just more psychological, that you start re-examining your self-worth, and something happens, and when Venus starts the new cycle after the 25th of March, you start, new sense of self-worth starts growing in you, a new sense of uh, what is worth your time, what is worth your energy starts coming. So because of that, you can come back much more, especially when Venus starts becoming visible in April and May onwards. Because of this renewed self-worth, you can attract new financial ventures into the spring onwards. Not now, particularly in March. March is the concluding phase. You're not attracting new financial ventures. You are concluding, you are healing your self-worth of some sort. You are re-examining it while you're allowing to have lower self-worth, why you're allowing, why you're spending money in a certain way, why you resources in this kind of state. Maybe some project you've been working on and it's not paying back financially, it's not paying back your worth time. So you start thinking, maybe I have to remove that from my life. Maybe, or there's too much clutter, it's taking too much space in my life, I have to let go of it because it's no longer productive for me. It's now, it's kind of uh, blocking my space. So and blocking the flow of resources in my life. And the Venus retrograde, especially during March, will make you become aware of all those things. So kind of infertile financial investments, infertile efforts, and sense of a investment of your time as well. uh, and when Venus starts its new cycle after the 25th of March, but especially when it becomes visible April, May onwards, this is when you really start seeing the results of this cleanup that you did, of this reevaluation that you did. So you can attract money on a much higher level in April or May. You can attract, even if your financial situation destabilizes or feels like a little bit of a crisis in March, because we're in the crisis phase of the Venus retrograde in March, which is the ending phases. So you're losing something financially, maybe financially, so your self-worth is on the rocks, destabilized. Always a big change is preceded by a crisis, and a big move to a happier state is preceded by a crisis. And Venus is a benefic planet. Its ultimate goal is to give you happy, improved, more balanced, more fulfilling, more enjoyable state of being, especially when it comes to your self-worth and your resources and your money. And by the way, Venus also rules Libra, the eighth house, so what you receive from others as well. So it will definitely reflect not only on your own money, but on the money you have with partners, on the money that uh, you make through the money that the universe brings to you through others. Not only money, but support, moral, sexual, emotional support that you receive from others. How open you are, how open your heart is to receive from others, whether it's love, whether it's moral support, whether it's financial support, whether it's um, anything, you know, anything. So this is how much you give, how much you receive from the universe. So it's kind of like this huge shift that is happening in your worth value system within you. It's going to also affect how much you're receiving over the universe, from the universe, and you're going to start seeing it after the retrograde period. But first there might be a bit of a destabilization of this axis of you know, financial and emotional stability, the healing crisis as we call it, letting go of things that are not giving you the same as you're giving into them, that you know, that letting go of either projects or people that are taking more from you than giving you more, or just re-establishing the rules of the relationship with such people to make it more fair. And from April onwards, again, you start seeing the positive results of that. So let me give you an example of what I've seen in clients. Client sees that, you know, when they had Venus retrograde in the second house, she sees that she's working on a business, and this business gets worse and worse financially when Venus goes retrograde. And she realizes that this is not out of the blue, but this has been happening for some time. She's been ignoring it, now becomes very prevalent, and she starts to reevaluate how she spends money, what resources. She's been buying very expensive resources, so her business has been losing her money. So she starts to reevaluate it and kind of rebudget the business, and even cut a few things from the business. Some people, you know, even have to leave totally one source of income because it's not giving back as much. And she also starts reevaluating that the self worth, you know, that uh, she's been doing it unfairly because her prices were too high, and that she was having too high expectations there. And she reevaluates it, changes her prices, changes her price plan, and the materials that she's working with while Venus is retrograde there. And she was out of balance in the opposite way. She was expecting too much without putting enough, so to speak, you know. And by the time she redesigned the business, she redesigned the product. After that, within a couple of months, uh, they started paying off financially, basically. But initially, it was preceded by a crisis. This is how it can work. That's like one example, you know. But hopefully, you can have an idea how Venus retrograde can act. So first, it might be some crisis, and later on, it leads you to a more balanced, more more satisfactory outcome. And it is connected to self-worth, it is connected to self-love as well, to money, to how you appreciate yourself, and how others appreciate you as well. So this is what I see for you guys. And also Venus can bring some old relationships back into the sphere, because Venus will come also retrograde into Pisces more into April, and then it becomes on a much more personal level. So relationships from the past can start coming back into your life if you're a Pisces, to be released, to be re-examined. But we will talk about Venus retrograde in Pisces in my April videos, because then Venus goes into Pisces and stays there for almost most of April, and we're gonna go more in depth now. But the first part of the transit in March is focused on this security, emotional and financial security that might get destabilized, so you can end certain unhealthy connections and relationships and activities and move them to the next level for a new beginning during the new Venus cycle that will continue for 8 years ahead, because that's an end of a cycle, a big Venus cycle of 8 years. So thank you so much. So you will probably end some very self-harmful, self something that has been undermining your self-belief. You would end some of those things in a big way, basically. So thank you so much, Pisces, and I will see you next month.